My golly. They did keep this a very good secret, I can assure you. I really didn't have any... I'm glad I didn't wear my thongs or something like that, a pair of shorts here tonight. I would have really had a play. My wife said to me, she said, don't talk too much. I mean, you get to a situation where sometimes what does one say and where does one start? Yes, it's the Hall of Fame. And for starters, Mr. Neil Brown and all the work that he does with AGRA and the Hall of Fame, I think that we all owe you a debt of gratitude for the huge amount of work you do. The reason I say that is twofold. Firstly, I know how much work it would take to keep abreast of all the information you do. And secondly, Neil knows my thoughts on the Hall of Fame because it goes back to the days of the Silver Collar Bistro at Wentworth Park, where I used to think that it would have been wonderful for the people to see all of the people on the greyhounds who had made greyhound racing what it was, see them as they walked down into the Silver Collar Bistro, which at that time was something totally different. And I thought it was just a wonderful place to have something that you could remember all the wonderful deeds that the people had done. So therefore, Neil knows my thoughts on Hall of Fames and the need to keep the memory alive, so as to speak. Graham McNeice is with us this evening, and we were speaking earlier on about old film and how important it is to retain that old film, because once you lose the archives, you lose everything. It can't be regained. So the recognition into the Hall of Fame for people like the Maidments, Tony. Tony, you're only 86. I thought you were 100. You have been around for so long, honestly. I think it's fabulous to see you here this evening, Tony. And a man for whom I had such a great appreciation, Rod Deacon, because Rod, like so many people in racing, was different. He lived by what he thought, did it the way he wanted to do it, and kept that up through his whole career. And he did greyhound racing a great service. Michael Abbott, who has taken greyhounds to the world, and of course gave us that wonderful greyhound token prince. Bombastic Shiraz token prince, you know, you go back to the Witch Chariots, all of those greyhounds that made what we see today possible. And I have been very fortunate to be part of it. I'm also extremely proud to be here this evening for another reason. And the reason was the person whom I'm following. And that's Peter Pearson. Ironically, I rang Peter the other day and I said, Peter, I just want to say thank you very much. He said, you know, what have I done? And I said, no, I said, people don't sometimes recognise anniversaries. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, it was 4 years ago that you wrote an article about me, and it was the most flattering article one could ever have had written about oneself. And it was to do with Whiskey Assassin winning at Bulli in the gold plate. And he wrote an article which depicted everything that I would like to think that I was to the listener. Because as I said before, my whole ambition has been to the person who's listening down the microphone. And that article that Peter wrote about that particular broadcast that night was exactly what I wanted to think the people on the outside listening, not viewing, listening, were hearing. Viewing's an entirely different thing. Television and radio are miles apart. In radio, that's where I started. Broadcasting rugby league, the Penrith Panthers, when they first came into the competition. And on radio, you have a wonderful opportunity to paint the picture, to go back to the days of the 50s, the 40s, the old days of the serial where the theatre was the mind. The racetrack is a wonderful theatre. There is no better theatre than a racetrack. And when you're at home listening, whether you've got your last on or hundreds or thousands on, doesn't make any difference. If I can make that race live, if I can make your money ride and give you the thrill, then I've done what I really and truly want to do. Last race, George was a person who he was real. He would have his last 50 cents on something every Monday night. And I would love to think that every time he had his last 50 cents and I was calling the race, that he was getting as big a thrill out of listening to that race as the thrill I was getting out of delivering the race call. And that's the way I would like to think that I've always worked and always loved to work. My family has always been extremely supportive of everything I do. And let's face it, as a race broadcaster, sometimes you're working 6 days a week or whatever it might be. I think I still hold the record for the most numbers of meetings ever broadcast in a week. I did 11 meetings one week. I remember jumping out of bed on Sunday in an absolute fright, thought I was going to miss the first race or something like that. That was before they were racing on a Sunday. And these days I most probably still would have been there on the Sunday too. But you need all of that support. We all know it. It's greyhound racing. It's racing itself. You need the support of your family to make sure it's a success. So if you're listening to me on the radio or watching it on the television, you are part of my family. You are part of my broadcasting family, listening to me there, and I just hope that I can do what I've done in the past, and that's called all of you a winner. At the end of the night, sometimes I say, whatever I say, I hope you've enjoyed the broadcast as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. And I hope that goes on for many years. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you to everybody. My appreciations. I really do appreciate it.